Good evening, everyone. My name is Jacqueline Davis. I'm one of the lead social workers with the Halton Catholic District School Board. Parents, thank you so much for joining us this evening for our workshop called Mental Health and Wellbeing during COVID-19. It's such a pleasure to have you with us.
Good evening, parents, and welcome to our session. My name is Patricia Weber Callahan, and like Jacqueline, I also am one of the lead elementary social workers here at the Halton Catholic School Board. I'm pleased to be with you this evening as we begin our series on mental health, well-being, COVID, and your child. Tonight, Jacqueline and I will specifically talk to you about what is mental health and well-being? How do I know if my child is experiencing a mental health issue? How can I talk to my child about mental health? And where can I go for help? So I'm going to start by talking to you about what is mental health. So moving on, I'd like to talk to you about the fact that mental health and well-being is experienced on a continuum. So for all of us, we experience our mental health as a fluid kind of event. We sometimes wake up and we have a day that's a great day. We feel that it's going to be a good day and we're feeling really good about it. Other days we wake up, we're not feeling so good. And other days we're like, this is not going to be a good day. I can just tell. So we know that that is normal. It is very normal to have a range of emotions, to experience a range of emotions. And for our children, it's very much the same thing. Our children do experience a range of emotions as well. And I think that it's really important for us to know that experiencing a range of emotions over a period of time is normal. It's very important for us to normalize that. It's very normal to experience a range of emotions. What I want us to think about is that mental health is a positive concept. It's a positive concept that's related to social, emotional, physical well-being. Mm-hmm. Having good mental health is more than just an absence of illness. It's a sense of overall well-being. We are by nature resilient. We are resilient people. And so when we have bad days, we know that it's possible for us to get through that and that things will get better. And we need to think about that with our children as well. And think about how we support our children to help them to be resilient and to move forward. So moving on, I want to talk to you about COVID-19 because that's so important. What's happened to us all of a sudden is that we're in a pandemic. I would ask you to go back to March 2020. I remember the last day of the March break, March 2020, saying goodbye to our staff at school and saying, we will see each other shortly. At that time, as an adult, and I'm sure you as adults, you thought, something's going on out there. We know something is going on. On the news, we're hearing about a virus that's happening, but we're hearing that it's only 1 or 2 cases. In fact, Premier Ford said to us, go ahead on your vacations. It's going to be okay. So we had no idea what the scope of COVID-19 was going to be. And here we are a year later, and we're still managing COVID-19. So what I want to talk to you about is that during the year, we've had to develop new routines. Remember, I said that we're resilient, and we've been asked to develop new routines. We've been asked to wear face masks so that we don't spread the virus. We've asked our children to wash their hands often so that they don't spread the virus. We've asked our children to be physically distant from each other, to be physically distant from their friends and family. And this is so very difficult because if we consider for ourselves how hard it is when we think of our children as social beings, our children as social beings, how hard this would be for them. So we've had, as a result of COVID-19, to change our routines. We're no longer able to go to restaurants. Our kids aren't allowed to bring their friends over to the house the way they used to. They're not allowed to go visit their friends as they used to. This is all so unexpected that we don't know what's going to happen next. It was unpredictable. We had no sense that this was going to happen and that it was going to be so long. And so what's happened is there's a feeling of isolation for some of us. For some of us, there's a feeling of isolation, not being able to do the things that we want to do. And with that also comes the notion of uncertainty. It's uncertain. And when you think about it with school, there was a lot of uncertainty about school. What was school going to look like? Are we going to school in person? Are we going to school virtually? It was different. It was different and it was uncertain. So we've had to adapt. In our resiliency, we've had to adapt. And we want to talk about that. What I also want to tell you, parents, is that for some families, COVID-19, the isolation and all that goes with it, has brought up memories of trauma. It has triggered trauma memories for some of us. And I think it's really important that if as families we experience this in a way that brings back memories of trauma, we need to address that. And we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on when we talk about where you go to get help. Okay? So as we move forward, I wanted to talk to you about how do you know when your child is experiencing a mental health problem. So how do we know that? I want you as parents to think that you know your children best. This is so important. You know your child best. I want you to remember the continuum. Remember that emotions range on a continuum. So it could be that your child's just having a bad day. So remember, it's a continuum. When you look at that, then I think you need to consider these questions as we move forward. Consider these questions when we talk about, is my child having a mental health concern? Okay, so is your child's behavior out of character? Is your child the child who is always very happy, always very easygoing? Now you're seeing a child who's more sullen. Is it out of character? Is your child's behavior having a negative impact on his ability to enjoy his life? Is he finding it more difficult to find joy in life? Is he finding it more difficult to get along with his siblings? Is his behavior having a negative impact on the family? Do you and the people in your family find yourself spending more and more time trying to address behavior as opposed to trying to live your life within the new constraints of COVID? How often is this happening? Is it more intense? Is it lasting longer? These are the kinds of questions you need to think about when you start being concerned about your children's behavior. Now, I have to tell you that children are individuals. We are individuals, and we may all experience COVID differently. So you might have 3 children, and each of your children experiences COVID differently, and that's okay. That's okay. Maybe one of your children enjoys the isolation because she's the kind of child who likes to read a book and is quite happy to spend her whole day reading a book, talking to her mom and dad. Then you have another child who what she wants to do is go to the park and play, and she can't do that right now, and that's having an impact on her. So everyone experiences COVID in their own way, and that's okay. When do we need to know that there is a concern? In social work talk, we look at duration, intensity, and frequency. How long has this behavior change been going on? How intense is it? How is it affecting our family? And how frequently is it happening? Those are the kinds of things that we need to think about. So as we move on, maybe Jacqueline can tell us a little bit about how you can talk to your children about mental health.
Exactly. Thank you. Thank you so much, Patricia. Being able to talk to your child about mental health and well-being is so important, that you take your time to really be very calm. You are also thinking about the fact that the location matters, so your surrounding matters. It's really, really great for you to think about that. Research shows that the more calmer you are in presenting your information, the more receptive your child is in receiving that information. So that's a little tip for you. So the calmer you are, the more receptive you are, the better your child is in receiving that information. The other thing to remember is that it's normal to feel anxious. Because a lot of times parents say to me, Jacqueline, I feel so anxious if they're talking to me about something I don't have a lot of information about. But my message to you this evening is that it is absolutely normal for you to feel some anxiety. Even physiological responses is normal. A little bit of heart palpitations, a little bit of sweating in the palms. Those are all normal things because you're dealing with a topic that you're not as familiar with. And also rest assured that if your child gives you information that may be brand new to you, that you hold on to that, but you have professionals that can help you manage that. So you're not carrying and holding those information alone. Another factor too that comes up is sometimes kids will say, I don't want to talk about it. And I don't have anything to talk about. And so it's important for you to know that I don't have anything to talk about really isn't that. The fact that they may not be ready, that may be what you're hearing in their tone and in what they're telling you. So you just be prepared to sit in the uncomfortable for a bit and stay with your child and let them know when you're ready to have that dialogue with me, then we can have the conversation. I'm not going anywhere, right? And so they will get that meta message that you're okay with what you're presenting to them. Because sometimes it's really hard to be able to hear information that's brand new, particularly around your loved one and your kids that you care so very much about. All right. The other thing is there may be other people in your child's life that may notice something different. And that other people may look like a teacher, a family member that may just notice that their disposition is off and they're not behaving the same way that they normally do. It's okay to listen to those people and those pieces to be able to share that with your child so they're not thinking this is just my mom or this is just my dad, right? So that they know that no other folks are noticing some slight changes from their baseline. So what your baseline is, it's completely different now or it's shifting, and we just want you to know that we're concerned, we see it, and we care about you. Moving on. Another factor when you're talking about how to talk to your child is by sharing some of the things that you wonder. I wonder if you're feeling this way. I wonder if, and you may have, you know your child best, and your child may say to you, stop wondering and just ask me what you're wondering. But it's okay for you to go ahead and share the wonders that you have. And not only in sharing the wonders, but also in allowing your child to be reflective, right? Like to allowing them to ponder a little bit about the things that you're saying and also how you're supporting them. Because you're going to be watching to see if you're nervous, if you can handle it, if you're going to be able to do anything about it. So know that that's normal for them to watch that because it's new for everyone. So you're going to be doing that dance together. But as parents, again, I'm just always reassuring you to be really calm in your disposition. And I know sometimes parents will say, Jacqueline, it's hard to be calm when I feel anxious, but don't abandon it. Stay with it. Because if you stay with it, that's when the outcome is going to happen in a more favorable way. Also, give your child the time. T equals time. So nothing happens out of order for your child when they're trying to tell you something difficult and you got to run and go pick something up, or you got to go to the street, or you got, nope, just stay the course and give them time to be able to articulate it in the way that they feel comfortable in doing that. And sometimes when they articulate it, it may not be exactly as they want to say it. So, but it's okay as long as they're speaking to you. That's really, really good. And so they're not shutting you out. They're actually just allowing you to be able to hear them, because there's a lot of noise going on for them about what's happening. There's a lot of confusion going on about what's happening. And sometimes it feels really super overwhelming. So thank you for standing in the guard for them and being that vanguard and just being able to hear the uncomfortable. That's really going to be helpful in the long run. I'm moving on. Another factor that's really important to think about is, now that I know all of this, I've heard the things Patricia just told me, I'm hearing you tell me that I need to reassure and be there and all of that. How can I help? What can I do? Like, it's the doing part that sometimes is the parents want to talk about. And it's really important, again, for you to be taking good care of you. I know that you hear this a million times over, but I can't punctuate how important it is for you to be considering your overall health and well-being. So what does your overall health and well-being regime looks like? Are you a family? Are you able even for yourself to get outside and get some air? Fresh air. There's no, to be in even nature, to be able to enjoy the simplistic, which is something that COVID-19 is teaching all of us, is that to be able to enjoy something as simple as just a ray of sunshine, to be able to hear, little birds chirping outside. You think they've always been there, but now I have a heightened sense of awareness to the things that you can so appreciate and enjoying that together as a family. Something really simple that's really helpful to the overall well-being of your family structure is actually doing something together. And that something can look like being outside together, even just taking a walk. If you have a family dog, don't know if you do, but being able to do that, to walk with your dog as well. Another thing is to extend kindness to other people. Real simple, but real profound and very therapeutic, is to be able to extend a little bit of kindness to even folks that you may not know in your neighborhood, folks who are elderly, those who don't necessarily have a lot of people checking up on them, to be able to extend that kindness by making sure that they've actually got their groceries for the week, and making sure that they're okay, writing a little note to someone that you know that's feeling a little bit down and a little bit sad, or even being able just to greet a neighbor that steps outside to pick up a paper, so that they know there's even, right, in social distancing, but they're actually just getting an interaction from another human being is pretty powerful. And also just keep in mind what Patricia had spoken about, that your mental health is on a continuum. It's on a continuum. So we all have mental health and we all have well-being, but it's the continuum of that, and when we need to have interjection of support. One of the things that parents tell me too is, what about if they say something that's a little bit scary and that's really hard for me to manage? That's when you have the people that you can tap into, like the school social workers that you're speaking to, or that's speaking to you this evening, or other resources that we're going to provide for you at the end of this presentation. That's the perfect opportunity to be able to tap into those supports, is when you don't necessarily feel, your child doesn't necessarily feel that they're going to get over that hump, right? That you're able to do that. Another one that we've taken so for granted, and I just love speaking about, is just physical touch. People often talk about skin hunger, and skin hunger is a real thing. It's the fact that we're not able to touch and hug one another, but just embracing your child and letting them know that you're there, You don't have to have a lot of words. It's just the gift of your presence is really, really important. So that's important. Moving on.
Okay. So now we want to talk about what should I do if I feel like I need more help? When do I know that I need to reach out for additional help? And one of the things that Jacqueline and I have both talked about is that you know your child. You know your child well. So we ask you to trust your instincts. Trust your instincts. Trust people who you love and who love and care for you when they say to you, I'm worried about your child. Trust your instincts. If there is no improvement in your child's behavior over time, remember we talked about duration and intensity. If there's no improvement in your child's behavior over time and you're concerned, that's enough. That's enough to know that you need to reach out for more help. If you continue to be worried about your child after you have, you've reached out to family, friends, teacher, and you're still worried, then it's time for you to get some help. I want to just, as an aside, tell you that COVID-19 has been very anxiety provoking. It's been anxiety provoking for everyone. And so one of the things that we as a team are going to do is we're going to present in one of our seminars a workshop on anxiety. And I believe it's the next one that's coming up. And our colleagues
Yes.
are going to do a webinar on anxiety. And we think that you would find that very helpful if that's something you're concerned about. So if you're concerned about anxiety in your children, please tune in to the next session, which will be coming up next week. The other thing that I want to talk to you about, and this is a really serious piece, it's about self-harm. If your child ever talks to you about wanting to harm himself or herself, or if they have thoughts of suicide and they tell you that they're having thoughts of suicide, we need you to take that very seriously. You need to respect the fact that your child loves and cares enough about you to share something so important with you. So we say to you that if at any point at all, your child reaches out to you and says, Mom, Dad, I'm concerned about hurting myself, that you take them very seriously, that you reach out for help immediately. You call your doctor. If you're not able to get in touch with your doctor and you're scared, you're afraid, call 911. Take your child to an emergency department. This is very, very important. And the people there will be able to help you. So I can't stress enough that if you're concerned about self-harm or any thoughts of suicidal ideation, please act on it. Do not leave your child alone and act on it immediately. As we move on.
It is so, thanks so much, Patricia, for that. It is so important for us to talk about culture and spirituality as it pertains to support. As individuals, we're so tied into the notion of culture, identity, and communal support. And so in so many ways, culture is so reflective of the food we eat, the clothes we wear, the music we listen to, and the traditions that we have. And more importantly, just being able to identify yourself with a part of your culture and who you are. Please don't forget to tap into that. That is such a rich area of support for families that they have been using long ago, that they can continue to use that cultural support as a way of getting them through the rough. The additional part to that is the spiritual support and how we build on the spiritual pieces that is so important to us as a culture as well. Spirituality means different things for different people, but what I know about that is it creates stability in families. depending on how you maneuver it and what it means for you. So let's not forget, we used to have places of worship for people, communal gatherings that people went to in order to be able to sort of support what their belief system is. Now, most folks are doing that in their homes. But again, the cultural and the spiritual really do intertwine, and they are a big part of how folks see themselves and the supports, the additional supports that they can tap into. The other factor, just before I forget, don't want to forget this, is being able to tap into your supports that are presently at your school. So everyone, and if you don't know, it was really important to know your school principal. It's important to know who your vice principal is, your special education resource teacher, and of course, your child and youth counselors and social workers. We are all there to help. So it's so important to be able to tap into those additional resources that are at the school level so that your child knows when they're away from home, they've got a home away from home at school. So once they enter the doors of our building, we've got them. We're there to support them. And all we're asking you as parents to do is to tell us what you need so that we can wrap around your child and give them that additional support that they need to get through this time. Moving on.
Okay. So I would like to talk to you a little bit about what's available in the community. And when we were preparing this presentation, Jacqueline and I had long conversation about what kind of information we should share with you. We can tell you that there are all sorts of resources out there. There are all kinds of resources on the internet that you can look towards to give you help and assistance. There's your family doctor, there, as Jacqueline said, your community, that sort of thing. But we also have resources in our community, mental health supports in our community that are available to you. In Halton, the Reach Out Center for Kids is our lead agency for mental health for our children. So what you can do is you could contact them at any time to talk with them about your concerns. They have a crisis line that is available 24/7, that is answered. You can call the number that's on the screen and somebody will be there to answer you. We have included Woodview Child and Autism Services, but we need to be clear about how you access Woodview. All community mental health services are accessed through Reach Out Center for Kids, through the ROC, so that if, for example, you call ROC and talk to them about what you're looking for, the person on the other end might say to you, we think that Woodview is probably the best place to meet your need, and they will guide you in that direction. So know that when you call ROC, they will be able to guide you in the best place to meet the needs of your family. We've also included Kids Help Phone, and we've included that because that's another service that's available 24/7. So you can call the number on the screen or you can text 686868 and someone will be there to speak to you. There's someone at the end of all of these phone calls so that you don't get a recording. We hope you don't get a recording. It's our understanding that these places are open 24/7 and that they're there to help you. And also, as I said before, if you have an emergency, if there's an emergency, please, please, please pick up the phone and call 911. They're there to help you. And finally, we just want to say that most of what we've talked about today came to us through School Mental Health Ontario. That's an organization that we work with who is devoted to helping our children. And you'll hear more about them as we go through our series. So thank you so much. And maybe now we can move on to the last slide, Jacqueline.
Perfect. So again, as Patricia had alluded to, parents, I want to thank you for taking the time to listen, for taking the time to be so vigilant and so available to hear information, maybe some new, and I'm hoping that you've received a few tidbits from us in preparing yourself if and when you have to have conversations with your child. It's been our pleasure this evening to start off our mental health and well-being COVID-19 series presentation. So this is our first one. We look forward to having you back on this platform to be able to look at the other ones. And for now, we say good night and we say thank you.
Good night. Thank you so much.